Welcome, champions, to the Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms weekly live stream. My name is Dylan Wilkes, and I am broadcasting to you live from the green streaming closet at Codename Entertainment in beautiful and wet Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. It's funny, I was moving in my chair and I could hear the creak over the sound, over the audio for the first time. It's kind of weird. And the fan from the computer, surprisingly loud. I blame Dave. So before we begin, I would like to thank Dungeons and Dragons for hosting us. It is a privilege and an amazing opportunity to be here, and all my friends are jealous. Now, we have something extra special planned for today's show, and while I do make that claim on a pretty regular basis, this time it's even more true because today's guest will be none other than Justin Stocks, company co-founder and lead designer for Idle Champions. He'll be here in an hour or so to talk to everybody about the tanking and healing update. Yes, we are talking about it. It's a thing. It's not just this mythical named update that's never come into the game. It's being worked on right now. So there'll be sort of a high-level TED Talk-like thing that Justin will do about that update. He's got a list of notes he wants to go through, and yeah, it'll talk about the long-awaited update to the tanking, healing, and shielding systems in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. We won't be going into all of the nitty-gritty details, but I can say by the end of the stream, each of you will have a pretty good idea of what's coming, and if you don't catch it all, we will actually be posting Justin's notes to the Steam forums, to the Idle Champions subreddit, and to Discord for everybody to see. So you can go over it and speculate to your heart's content, and just count down the days until it comes out. In the meantime, I am going to be playing Liar's Night 2 with the gamepad UI, and talk about the Q4 2018 roadmap for Idle Champions, giving everybody a little bit more insight into what's coming and what's going to happen over the next couple months. So yeah, on with the show, I guess, as they say. So this interface is currently in beta. It's a product of the very hard work of Peter and Jacob and Adam, I think primarily, as well as input from the rest of the design team here at Codename. It's a bit of a pride and joy. There's updated character portraits along the bottom that we do at some point intend to include in the regular game UI. And you can see that I have familiars hovering over people. Although maybe you can't see because I have an overlay running right now that probably makes the lower half of the screen a little bit harder to see. But I have this Donar and Waffle Crew formation with Farida and Strix DPS that I'm using for the Pirate's Night variant for Liar's Night 2. Can unlock the Pirate Bruner skin. You can see him kind of rocking it out there with his skull shield. Adam did this as well, so I'm pretty stoked about that. So I'm just gonna leave my boy Donar here highlighted, and yeah. I would like to say, is that what was that bat carrying? So, Gortak76, the gamepad UI has hotkey buttons for dealing with distractions. So it might look like they're carrying something sometimes, but it's just which right trigger plus gamepad button are you supposed to hit. And so depending on what kind of controller you plug into your computer for Steam, or I guess onto your Mac if you have one as well. It should change the buttons, I think. I don't think it's defaulted to the buttons that look like they're from an Xbox controller, but I could be wrong. What else? So, God, there's a lot going on. Before I would get into that, I just want to give shout outs to everybody who's already here in chat. There's a bunch of you here already, and quite a few of you are always here. I was, Ray Cool and Obo Crazy, Silisa. You're pretty regular, but there's a lot of familiar names: Baron Stromgard, Ted Faster, and DC Backroads. Lots of names: Garwar, PDX Portland Ace, Crab Kolash. Lots of people that I recognize. So yeah, welcome to the stream. What else? So on the community Q&A this week, and I thought I had this pulled up already on this computer, but apparently I don't. Crap, no, not that link. There we go. I made an update to the roadmap that I'm sure many of you noticed, but maybe not everybody, that includes a little bit more specificity about what's coming up with the rest of the year. So Justin will be here in 50-ish minutes, but he's going to be going over the tanking and healing update, which is an update that will also include an offline gold gain changes, and as well as some reworks for a number of champions. Basically, all of the tanking champions, healing champions, and shielding champions will have some kind of adjustment made for this update, just because of the way the systems are going to change. The most notable updates, as Justin has said so far, are going to be around Archon, Barrowen, and Gromma, who are going to go through a little bit more changes than some of the other characters. We're pretty happy with how like Nayeli performs right now. So there'll be some tanking changes as well. And you're not going to have to wait until next year for that update. It's coming. Well, it's coming when it's ready, but we're aiming to get it done before the holiday break. On the note of champion balance, which is a popular topic, so this is something that's kind of accumulated over the course of the year and a bit since the game went live. We're up to 34 champions in game now that Donar has joined us, and there's a fair number of tweaks and adjustments that we'd like to do. Some of those will be addressed as we do year 2 events. So, for example, Kron's event just came up and we did a rework for Kron leading into Liar's Night 2, and then Donar's been introduced. And then furthermore, we have, other event champions coming up in other events that we'll be tweaking as their event comes up. But also, there's a greater sort of champion balance pass that we want to do, where we just kind of pick a baseline and kind of bring all of the champions a little bit closer to it. And so I don't have an ETA for that, but that's something that will become a bigger priority once the tanking and healing update is done. In terms of updates, so obviously Liar's Night 2 is live now until November 5th, I think it is the Monday. And then the next update, the next event after that will be Feast of the Moon, which will arrive the week of November 12th to 16th, as well as Simral 2 after that, the week of December 3rd to 7th. And then to wrap out the year, Winter Shield 2 will come the week of December 24th to 28th. So, or at least that's the plan. I mean, that's an update that will go live when the office is shut down and we're all having Christmas dinner with our families. But it went live fine last year, so we're not worried about that part. What we don't want it to do is have another Barrowen go out and horrifically alter the landscape of the game for weeks on end before we band-aid fix her and she still becomes too good. So we're going to avoid that this time around. I'm not going to get into the already announced champions that are upcoming, because I don't want to take the spotlight away from Donar. He wouldn't like that. But check out the community Q&A over on the subreddit if you want a little bit more information. I tend to answer the same questions on a fairly regular basis. But there's tends to be some at least new bits of information every week whenever I do those, and also when Chris does them, because he likes to spoil things. So lots of information there. What else? What else is going on? Sorry, I'm just reading chat. I will take questions not related to the tanking healing update, because I'll wait for Justin, but I will stockpile them for when he does get here. I know, quite cool, Gromma when. Well, I mean, Feast of the Moon is Gromma's event, so Gromma would be getting tweaks leading into that, but I suspect her update is going to be tied more into the tanking and healing update, so that will come together all at once. I'm glad you like the pirate skin, Garwar. Waskies9161. How would this UI work for PC, or would the PC version keep its current UI but get the portrait changes? So this actually is the PC version of the game, but there is an option to toggle the gamepad UI. So I'm using the controller right now, but I can just hit start and go into the settings. And it's down there at the bottom, display in gamepad UI mode. So you can find it in the settings for the Steam version of the game. It's not available on iPad or tablet for Android, as far as I know. I certainly don't know how you would get it running if it were, but yeah. And keep in mind that it's a beta. Like there's some kinks to iron out still at this point, but we're really happy with how it's coming together. It's very pretty. I mean, aesthetically I like it a lot more than the normal mouse and keyboard UI. But there's some functionality that's not quite there yet. We don't have formation saves in the gamepad UI yet. And I mean, you can put familiars on characters, There's Juniper on Evelyn, but yeah, we're really liking how it's coming together. It's been a lot of fun to see the iterations and evolution of this interface. There's also some cool things that it can do that the game that you can't do in the game in the PC. Like if I hold down the left trigger, it's like, oh, there's my gems, my lyre starts, my time gate pieces, my chests. It also shows you the damage and the percentage of your party DPS that each character is doing. Yes, Farida does that much more than Strix. But Farida doesn't really stack with Barrowin, which is why people tend to like Barrowin Strix so much. Stupid Barrowin. Barrowin needs to be nerfed. What else? Let me think for a moment. Maybe I'll just go back to the questions because I don't want to just ramble. Task Who Plays Games. How do you get Pirate Bruner? Okay, so Task Who Plays Games. It's pretty straightforward. This is one of the variants for Liar's Night 2. It's called Pirate's Night. You can see it in here in the corner. I know you can see my mouse cursor. I mean, I wouldn't want to be using that with the gamepad UI, but not all the functionality is there. But basically, you complete this variant, and Bruner is locked as part of your formation. So those of you who love Deacon Scale Singer, like all of us, won't be able to use him for this one. But Pirate Bruner is in your formation, and you get attacked by pirates, as you can see there. And you just beat the adventure, and then you get Pirate Bruner. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, that's really it. Web Junior 1981. Dylan, are you intimidated by Binwin and Crowy? Admit it, you are. No. You know, I like them. Now that said, I don't want to be turned into a comic book animated character and stuck in their stream. So I'm glad that I'm here in this one. Hello stream. Dylan's accent on Donar is so Canadian. Donar, Dinar. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I am Canadian, but people in the Pacific Northwest tend to sound a lot like this. Let's see. Last Hardman. Is there a chance I can get a character with my username? It's unlikely. Holy Hacks Batman. Can we get a skin for Donar where he's holding a Daenair at one point? We weren't planning on doing that as a skin for Daenar, but, well, I don't want to spoil it. But pay attention to PAX Australia, and those of you who attend will find out sooner. But there is a skin for Daenar that is coming very, very soon. Let's see. Lost and Damned. Will you introduce any buffs for complete named parties all being active in the formation? So we kind of touched on this a bit with the design of Wolfgar and the Companions of the Hall, as well as with Diath and the design of the Waffle Crew members that we have so far. The gist of it is that what we don't want to do is make it so that any particular group is like the guaranteed must-have in your formation at all times kind of thing. And so balancing any kind of affiliation-based synergies, we'll have to take that into account. Right now, we're not entirely happy with how the Companions of the Hall have come together. I mean, if you go by books, Dritz can murder anything easily. You know, he's like level 6,000 by now. But you know, we kind of designed him taking some of the future design and like concepts into account, and then like it hasn't quite played out exactly the way that we wanted, and so like there will be some adjustments that will probably come with the tanking and healing pass, or not the champion balance pass. But you know, what we've done with the Waffle Crew so far, we're pretty happy with, like the way that Diath's buff works with more Waffle Crew members in the formation, and so there may be some more synergies, but like in terms of like just getting a party DPS buff or something just by having an entire party in the game, that's a lot less likely. Let's see. Very cool. When are we going to get proper version numbering? Well, I mean, part of it's that like the game is in early access and we haven't kind of reached a 1.0 point, you know, etc. Thing yet. And so the versions that we get are kind of, you know, they're counting their way up, but they're not exactly, you know, it's not perfect yet. When the game is done, which is to say out of early access, I'm sure it'll get addressed, or maybe not. I guess we'll just see. We'll see. Magenta shirt. Where is Nordum? Nordum the Modron is in an old module and not in the 5th edition Forgotten Realms. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we'll never see them, because, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that we'd see Modrons, and here we are. There are Modrons in the game. Or at least there are when the Great Modron March is running. Do we expect more familiars to be released with new champions that are coming? For example, Paulton has several infamous familiars. That isn't really the approach that we take to adding familiars to the game. Like, I know that we've added Stinky the Cranium Rat and Juniper the Mouse and Boo as familiars so far. And that was more like, we knew that we wanted to add a familiar, and we knew where we were going to put them in, and then we needed to pick one. And Juniper and Stinky and Boo seemed like really obvious choices, especially since we tied in the Stinky the Cranium Rat familiar pack to a fundraising thing. So, yeah. I love that we have event champion dialogue in these now. It's so nice. So anyways, you know, it's more about, you know, we kind of look at the familiars we're going to add to the game when we get to the point where we're going to add more familiars, as opposed to being like, when can I get Handrew in the game? So, and like, he may or may not ever, Handrew may or may not ever make an appearance. We don't know, but it's always a possibility. Canuck Monkey. Let's see. It's not my imagination that dialogue for the events has been updated, right? Right from the start, I saw Strix and Evelyn talking. And while I wasn't playing the game at this time last year, I know they weren't even in the game yet at that time. No. Part of the updates with Year 2 events includes additional dialogue for other champions. So, yeah. Let's see. Axel11223. Can you tell us if the weekend buff chests are bought by the same percent of players, or does it change? Since last weekend buff Golden Epic was for Delana, were there fewer sales? I can't get into the financial aspect of the game, and I probably never will, unless something changes and for some reason we want to disclose that kind of information. But I doubt that's something that I'd ever be able to talk about. Baron Stromgard. Hi Dylan, has the team given any thought to anachronisms for United Champions? Seems like a problem with the stream characters only as opposed to lore characters. This is a fantasy D&D game, so it can be a bit jarring to see things like restaurant menus and chef hats, which weren't invented until the 18th or 19th century, well after the medieval period typically seen in the Forgotten Realms games. I could see that in Crusaders of the Lost Idols, but I expect something a bit different here. That's a fair point to bring up. I guess the other thing is that, I mean, it's fantasy Middle Ages, right? So comparing it directly to what Europe was like in the 18th and 19th centuries, or the 12th century, etc., isn't really an accurate comparison. Just as an example, like Dragon Heist, the Waterdeep Dragon Heist 5th edition book, there are firearms in it. Despite the fact that most of the Forgotten Realms is a medieval setting, and it's smoke powder, so it's magical, and it can be, you can use dispel magic to make it inert so that it no longer works, but it's not quite that cut and dry. In any case, we coordinate with Wizards of the Coast and the D&D team for everything that we do in the game. If they weren't happy with the fact that Donar has a Yum Yum Hut and a menu and such, that's not something they expressed with us. They were okay with all of it. So that being said, it's there are some kind of strange things that way at times, like there's a lot of what I would consider to be like Leonardo da Vinci-ish Renaissance inventions and like clockwork things and stuff that are in the Forgotten Realms that are really cool, but like that never happened. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's not something that takes you out of the setting too much. And if it is, let us know. But for the most part, yeah, we work with everything. We work everything out with Wizards in advance. RAR303, is there any way to get Yum Yum Hut Donar if we aren't at PAX Australia this weekend? Yes, but I will let Penny Arcade talk about that. That's not news for me to share. Cassius335, who decided acid vomit was perfect advertising for Yum Yum Hut? That would be the one and only Ryan Hartman, who plays Donar, and described his vomiting as a cat coughing up a furball as opposed to an epic dragon breath. So, yeah, it's more vomit, less dragon breath, but hey, it's funny and awesome. And I should just cast it right now just because. I've unlocked it, right? Yep. Okay, the next thing is getting vomited. Take this, caterpillars. Blah. So amusing. All right, next questions. Murky 1988. During the Steam sale, is the in-game store discounted too? You know, off the top of my head, I don't know, but generally the Steam sale tends to be for products in the Steam store, and so the in-game store doesn't perfectly align with that. We have DLC packs that are in both, so they would be discounted, but I don't think it impacts like chests being sold unless we make that change. Because all the sales for any Steam sale are also determined by us. So like we could run an in-game store promotion at the same time, but it tends to be that we pick we go through the DLC and stuff that we have, and we kind of just go through discounting stuff. A corpse. Is it intended that control clicking a champion upgrade still makes you individually acknowledge the stepped upgrades, even if you don't involve a spec choice? It means upgrading in large jumps isn't actually any quicker because you have to spam click. That's intentional with how buying 100 levels with the mouse works. Waski's 9161. Can we expect new champion dialogue to be written into older campaigns, for example, older Grand Tour of the Realms or Tomb of Annihilation adventures? That's unlikely because at the end of the day, there's going to be a new 5th edition book coming out every year that's a new adventure, and like we are going to be including that stuff in the game, and so older campaigns will eventually end. Like Tomb of Annihilation hasn't ended yet, but it will end at some point. So we're probably not going to go back and rewrite any of those older adventures. Whereas when you look at events are going to be coming around every year, and so we have an opportunity in our content schedule to address them and look at things and look at what we liked or didn't like with the last version of the event and see whether or not we want to include anything. So it's just a little bit of a different context. So it's unlikely that we'll be updating dialogue in older adventures and variants from the permanent campaigns, but events are fair game. Giant Dwarf. Why no alternate dialogue in the Chaotic Decisionist, since most of the talking champions can't even be in your party? That's a great point, and hashtag blame Chris. Canuck Monkey. Okay, acid vomit is awesome. As the proud owner of a 19-year-old cat who has had plenty of hairballs in her life, I can vouch for the high quality of that animation. Thanks. Yeah. I don't know if it was Adam or Alexis who animated Donar. I'm going to guess Adam. And yeah, it's so gross. It does really well. Let's see, Creepy Monster 83. In your current build, what are you specialized in for Farida and Naeli? So Naeli's specialization never, ever really changes for me. It's always buffing and not health. Farida this time around. Actually, which one did I pick for Farida this time around? I think I boosted. Oh, Death Ward. No, wait, no, that's Strix. Oh god, it's too sensitive. I keep going further down than I want to. Okay, so you can see it at the bottom right, Hellish Rebuke, enemies that hit Farida or champions within 2 slots. So I chose her left specialization this time around. Probably because with this particular setup, I was hoping that whenever Evelyn got hit, that enemies would get hit back. But generally, if you want higher damage, you pick just an increase to her damage, since it impacts how good her Hellish Rebuke is anyways. Let's see. Maybe make a pirate command, Draugr. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Draugr. Like a pirate command of what? Like adding pirate commands? Some kind of new pirate command? Also, I haven't said anything about this already, but I wanted to mention that we are also broadcasting to the Idle Champions Steam store page. And if there's anybody in there, hello. And if you're wondering how things like giveaways work, those do currently require that you be in the D&D Twitch in order to participate in them. So that's twitch.tv/D&D. You can see it in the corner, just there. I'm not quite pointing to it properly. Yeah, so if you're in the chat in there, you can participate when we run them. We tend to run a handful of them each episode. However, if not, no worries. The code in the top left corner of the screen, way over there, Sorry, I can't think of a way to do that that looks proper. A chest for Donar with an exclamation at the end will get you a gold Donar chest in the Steam version of the game, which presumably is the one that you're playing if you're looking at this on Steam. Now, I know that our tablet players on iPad and tablet for Android are eagerly awaiting any kind of information related to when they will be able to do things like input codes or get free chests. And I don't have an update on that, but I just want to reiterate that like it is an unusually complicated thing, because giving things away for free through the Google Play Store and through the iTunes Store are big no-nos in terms of what the license agreement is like with working with them. So like we can't bypass it, which is why there isn't already a code system in place. So, you know, we do have plans. Excuse me, I need some water. Oh, that's better. We do have plans for a kind of workaround with that will like tie it into the system and make sense and will help those players out. But it's not ready, and we don't have anything to talk about yet. So we'll get there. I know, and on that note, because obviously we're just now talking about the tanking and healing update publicly, or at least we're about to in like half an hour, and we've been kind of hinting towards that update since February or March. I know it feels like it can take a really long time for us to get to events and updates, and that's entirely because of the content schedule that we're dedicated to in order to keep the game going, and how small we are as a company and a team. Every update that we do it's not just that we have to think about it for a long time and go over it and test it and stuff. It's just like we just have a small team, so they just take longer. This gamepad UI has been in development for months, and it's not complete. As well, the recent update to the in-game shop was also like it was months of work to get that reprogrammed, redesigned, reflagged, tested out, and then just like again and again and again and keep iterating on it. So you know, we have a lot of, we think, really cool ideas for what can come to the game in the coming years, and some of them are going to be a long ways off, and some of them are going to be a lot sooner. And you know, yes, we don't intend to shrug off quality of life updates. They are something that's important to us as well. It's just, you know, they're not always an easy thing to fit into the schedule, especially like right now. Because we take a break for Christmas where we shut down the studio. We don't turn off the games, but nobody's here. So we're trying to make sure that we get ahead enough that when we take that break, that we come back to things not being on fire in January when that break ends. So we're just we're getting there. Like we really do appreciate your patience, and we're really happy that people are enjoying the games. Joser D&D, any tips for a sort of new player hitting free play 225 in the event? Mostly blues, 1 to 2 epics on champions. I mean, that's funny, because I know that, well, excuse me, I'm in a position to talk to everybody about the state of the game, but I feel like the community leaders who play this game, players like Silisa and Garwar, you know, Ray Cool, have a depth of experience and knowledge of the game that surpasses mine, because they play it more than I do. You know, I have inside information, so there's a lot of things that I may know about that people don't, but I don't learn it in quite the same way. Like there's a level of passion that our community leaders have, and I see somebody saying come to the Discord. Yes, come to the Discord. Joser and D&D, the Idle Champions official Discord is discord.gg/idlechampions. That's discord.gg/idlechampions. Everybody should be in there. We have a pretty awesome community in there of people who are more than willing to take your questions, and we have new player resources, and we have, you know, people tend to source all of the like loot codes that show up all over the internet and kind of amalgamate them in one spot, and you know, there's a lot of good conversation in there. But anyways, a new player hitting free play 225. You just want to get to the point where ideally you've built up enough favor that you are easily getting to your wall, which means that, and when I say your wall, I mean like you're the wall for where you can't progress further, where you're hitting the level cap for every character in your formation and you're unable to kill enemies anymore. Like that's your wall. So you want to get to that in free play over the course of the event, just so you know that you're getting as much favor from the end of the event as possible. And then you know, and then, you know, like depending on how many event tokens you have and what your gear level is for Krond and for Donar, depending on what your gear level is for those champions, just run free plays and complete all the objectives and achievements and just kind of try to get them as much equipment as you can. Hooray, Idle Champions had to log in and grab Donar. Good. I'm glad, Taken. We're pretty happy. Drow Fighter, how many high rollers points do you have? Ooh, I don't know, like maybe 300 or something. I haven't been actively pursuing it. I tend to, the way that I played the game, because I did a deep old Fire Breath Potion run many months ago now, in the major campaigns. So I have really high amounts of favor. I've been paying less attention to the high rollers promotion because other than the Minsk Golden Epic, there isn't really anything in it that I'm personally very excited about. You know, because I have a lot of what people would call dev privilege. I get a lot of free stuff for the game, and it's easier to keep it running, so I'm not required to play it quite as much, which I know is not fair. But so yeah, I imagine I'm at like, I don't know, like 280 high rollers points. Let me check. I bet it's low. 286. Oh, claim a reward. Oh wait, no. We're gonna have to. There we go. Huge potion of giant strength. Cool. Yeah. Anyways, I just haven't been in a rush to deal with it, and so I haven't. All right, get my boy Donar highlighted again. Should be the first thing that people see when they come in here. Donar, all lit up. Alrighty. Giant Dwarf. Why no approach command from Donar? We have plenty of shoves, but no pulls. That's a great point. Hashtag blame Chris. But seriously, I'll make a note here for Chris about that. It's funny because we've been talking about upcoming champions lately and what kind of skills they use and such, and champions that can pull in ranged champions is something that we haven't done. And so I was making the argument for one, but we'll see how things go. We also because we also want ranged enemies to be scary, right? So I don't know. It's just something we haven't done a lot of, but I imagine at some point we will. Saintash 86. If you are sort of newish, is it worth saving up familiars for familiars, or worth spending gems on a chest? That's a difficult question to answer. Ultimately, what helps you progress the most when you first start is getting better equipment for your champions, because they will do so much more damage. They will be able to get so much further and push so much further in your runs. Getting your characters geared up is kind of first and foremost the most important thing. That being said, depending on how you play the game, familiars can be really helpful. Like I think about whenever an event starts, I tend to use my familiars. Like I'll put all 6 of them on the battlefield, and and then another one on leveling up click to start that first run, because you have no favor and clicking is much more valuable then. Whereas once I have a number of favor, I tend to put all my familiars on champions to level them up so that I don't have to look at the game. So familiars are they're a nice to have, not something you need like equipment is. So it's probably better to invest your gems in gold chests until you have, at least rare on all of your core and evergreen champions, and ideally epics on them, and then consider dumping it onto familiars. But I mean, it's kind of a to each his own kind of thing. Evil sales ass, evil sales sass, evil's. Is there a maximum for high rollers points? If so, what is it? That's a good question. I do not know the answer to. I know that prizes cap out at 750. That's where the last one is. But the major unique prize that is only available as part of the High Rollers event is at 500 points. So it really depends on you. Like it's if you want to keep going, that's cool. But as far as I know, there's no benefit past 750. But it may be able to count up past that. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. If I give you a code for all familiars, then I'll dump all your gems into chests. It's a nice try. But we do tend to... giveaway codes for familiars as part of our weekly live stream. So if you're here on the D&D Twitch and you are in chat and you play Idle Champions and you're interested in familiars, participating in those giveaways is a good way to get a chance at one. So maybe you'll get one that way. Maybe not. All right. So what else? It's funny. I snuck some hints into the subreddit Q&A yesterday about some of the upcoming stuff, but it doesn't look like anybody has actually found them, which is fun because I feel like I'm defeating the internet hive mind by hiding something. Now, that being said, if you do figure it out, please don't post it in any place where you can spoil it for somebody who likes being surprised. You know, there's in the official Discord, discord.gg/idlechampions, there is a Well of Spoilers channel that is all about unreleased related stuff for discussion. So, you know, players tend to data mine the game and figure things out, and then also figure out what hints are and where that information leads to and stuff. And that's a great place to figure that out. And I'm aware that I just called everybody out, and I'm sure they're going to figure it all out now right away. But yeah, what else? What else? Let me think. Oh, this is funny. So we kind of unintentionally had a really long break with our Office Dragon Heist campaign, and I mean the TRPG Dragon Heist book, because yeah, I mean we get access to some stuff early as partners with Wizards of the Coast, so you know, as long as we're not violating any rules, like we can play D&D in-house with people who have signed the NDA and who, you know that's coming and that kind of thing. And but at the same time, like, we took like a 2-month break and have done like 2 or 3 hours of total role play with Dragon Heist. So we're like only really just getting underway now, and we were going to do it today, and we thought our boardroom was full. And none of us were smart enough to check the door, because the door tends to only be closed when there's a meeting going on in the room that needs the room. So we're just like, oh crap, there's somebody in there. Who's in there? And then like everybody shows up, and we realize that everybody's outside the boardroom and there's nobody in it, but the door's been closed all day. So we missed out on our D&D this lunch hour because we were too stupid to check a door. That being said, we split our party. Because there were 5 players, and it just, like, scheduling wise, it was kind of hard to line everybody up because there's always somebody out for something or doing something priority or whatever. So we added a 6th and then split the party into 2 groups of 3 who are pursuing very different objectives in this Dragon Heist game, and I'm actually really excited to see where it goes because yeah, it's got a ways to go. Waski's 9161 asking how long High Rollers lasts. If you go into the High Rollers menu, it tells you when, but basically as soon as the High Rollers campaign, the one that they're airing on Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific, as soon as that wraps up, so too will the in-game thing. Giant Dwarf rule 1 of D&D, never split the party. That's true in most cases. This is actually more interesting in that I'm DMing that game. I presented the party with 4 potential quest options from the outset, and there was a pretty polarized group deciding between 2 options that they were much more interested in, and you know, they won. One of them won out at a 3-2 vote, but now they're able to do a 3 going through one for one objective and 3 going for the other one. So yeah. Condre 369. Oh wait, hold on a sec. Rotting Jack. Where can I enter the chess code in the gamepad UI? That's a great question. I have no idea. I've never tried to do it. Let me look. So there's a shop for the game. So I suspect I go over here. I don't see an enter chess code button. That's an oversight on our part. That's either Jacob or Peter or somebody, but it doesn't look like that's something we put into the gamepad UI. So fun fact, when we did our updated shop UI for the game that came out just a little while ago, we had forgotten to put the chess code button in it. So when you look at it, where the placement is, where when you open it up, it's there in the top right corner. And it's in the top right corner. That was like a last minute decision, was to dump it there. So, yeah. So, our bad. It seems like that's for some reason an afterthought again, but we'll continue to iterate on it. I know there are more console gamepad UI type things to do, so it looks like, yeah, because we don't have familiar saves in here either, among other things. There's a number of functionalities that like this has that the regular keyboard and mouse UI doesn't have, but at the same time there's a lot of stuff missing. The familiars interface I find especially challenging, but it's better. Just kind of find it strange. Anyhow, lost on that rabbit hole. What else do we have on the go? Condre 369. Is it against idle champions in CNA terms to ask people if they like eggnog? No, but I don't. Like Gray Skies. What player characters are in your Dragon Heist campaign? Any interesting race or class combos? Yes, actually, I can get into this. So, what do we have? I don't have my notebook with me. So I have a notebook where I have everybody, all the players, and then their character names and races and like passive perception and stuff all, and AC all listed so that I can just do the little things, some things a little bit faster each time we play. Kat is playing a changeling bard. Georgia is playing... no, she's not playing her Minotaur. What is she playing? She's playing a tiefling, a feral tiefling with wings. Nick is playing a really large, just a human. Adam is playing either a halfling or a human. It's funny, how can you tell that we haven't played it enough of this campaign with each other? Because I can't even remember what everybody is off the top of my head. Kevin is a gnome. Yeah, God, I wish I could remember off the top of my head. That's bad. Now, pretty much everybody is some kind of rogue-like character or rogue-adjacent, at least in their design, because they are a minor thieves guild is kind of what they've started. They're a group of thieves called the Rooftop Rats, and they live in the sealed-off attic space of an orphanage that's run by one of the noble families in Waterdeep. So they kind of operate out of there, and they get jobs through the headmistress, the matron who runs it. I'm excited to see where it goes because I think I have planned out a bunch of really interesting and unique things for that campaign, just because a bunch of the players have read the Dragon Heist book already. So I want to be able to throw some surprises at them that are a lot of fun, and so I've planned some very unique and unusual things. Let's see. If you enable the gamepad UI, can you still use the mouse and keyboard? You can, but not for everything. Like if I use the mouse right now, I can pick up all the goobers, all the things in the ground. But like there are things I can't click on. You know, that like it doesn't do anything. Like, oh, I can't click on characters or move characters around in a way that like, oh, I can move them around the formation, but like I can't access the bottom interface at all with the mouse. So yeah, it's a work in progress. All right, next question. Is there a reason some of the 4th grade champions don't have dialogue lines? Maybe I haven't played any of the adventures where they speak, but it seems to focus mostly on the original champions, plus some new ones with Liar's Night. Yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's any dialogue with Archon or Tyrell or Jamila. So originally the thinking around our quest dialogue and our storyline interactions was that because players are going to unlock the first, 4, maybe 5-ish champions pretty early on in their early playthroughs, was to limit the dialogue predominantly to them because they are the party that everybody has and knows and recognizes. Because, some players don't play deep into runs and they don't unlock, slots, 10 plus on a regular basis. So that was kind of the idea behind why we limited dialogue to them. And that has since changed. But yeah, it's something that we're gradually working on. I mean, we received feedback that players would like to see more champions participating in the dialogue, and so we're gradually integrating more. Cobra King of Fear. Now that we've got a gamepad UI coming, what are the chances that we'll get idle champions on a console like Xbox? I could really use a continuous gamer score source from new achievements every few weeks. Good to know. Whooshgasm. How do you get Donar? You play the Liar's Night event, and then you... so, I mean, you'll need the event tokens in order to start the first adventure, but if you've never played the game before and you play the Liar's Night event, you will have the option to do 2 different campaigns, and each one is named. So one of them will say in brackets Kron, and the other one will say in brackets Donar. So you do the Donar one, you get up to and pass Area 50, and then you will unlock Donar, and then from then on you can earn chests, play through the variants, etc. Let's see. Will any of your group's characters end up in Idle Champions? That's unlikely. I think there are too many characters from books and shows that people love to justify us putting our personal characters into the game. Yeah. I mean, I would love to put some of my characters in the game because I think they're sweet. But, I mean, that's kind of the relationship that everybody has with their characters, right? Like, you feel like your character is freaking awesome because they are. They're your character. Yeah, the chances of us adding them into the game are pretty slim. Only Chris and Justin really get to do that because they do the design work. AFKI Ninja. What's a proper way to gain materials like Liar's Tarts? So Liar's Tarts are the event currency for Liar's Night. The way event currency works is that it drops at a fixed rate based on time. Based on server time, actually, not based on your time in the game. And so what happens is you get one on average every 30 seconds, which works out to 2,880 of them a day. I think. So you kind of get them at a steady rate. Now, if you're killing enemies, every 30 seconds will drop. If you're not killing enemies, what will happen is the system will try to compensate. And so every enemy that you kill for a while will drop them in order till you get caught up. But you tend to earn, I don't know, I want to say it's like 34,000 or so event tokens over the course of an event on average. Somebody probably has the exact number in chat, but I can't remember right now. And so, you will get enough to do all of the adventures and variants to unlock the characters and do theirs, and then a number of free plays as well. And you can bolster that number. You can increase the number of event tokens you have by using bounty contracts. And while the gold gain you get from bounty contracts is not ideal because it's based off of the offline gold gain, which is not that high, it will give you the event tokens for that played time. So, if you're hoping to get just enough more tokens in order to buy a gold chest, or you're needing just enough tokens in order to start a particular variant or free play, you can use some bounty contracts in one of your adventures and get more of them. Jokers forever. I know I'm dating myself here, but will we ever get a playable character from the Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s in-game? That's possible. We've talked about it. I don't know if it'll happen, but it's possible. Let's see. Rebel Sar. Are there or will there ever be any potions or equipment for familiars? It's not something that we're looking at doing, but if we come up with a compelling design that incorporates something related to that into it in the future, it might happen. So, which is to say, I don't want to say no outright because we might do something with it, but it's not something that we're planning right now. Sarah Rasta. Any possible in the future... freely choose characters and just lay out a dream formation. Probably not. And the reason for that is just the way that the game is built and balanced, because like if you look at it, right now most formations tend to focus around stacking as many possible buffers as you can on one DPS. And at the same time having people with enough health in front to tank any damage that might come in. What that would do is, like, if you look at the slot of Evelyn, I mean, there's a Shara, so, there's another buffer there. And, if you look at Diatha, there's Calliope and Dadius. Also buffers, but different kinds, and Calliope tends to be better for most people. So it's one of those things where... did I get Tyrell killed when I did that? I guess so. So it's one of those things where... How do I put this? It would blow the bit of balance that we have. The balance that we have would be just blown right out the window because you'd have access to all of them, right? Like, Naeli tends to be considered to be the best champion in slot 4. Is it slot 4 or 3? Slot 3. more so than Gromma or Binwin, which means that more players tend to use Naeli. But at the same time, like having Naeli as well as Binwin, or Naeli, Gromma, and Binwin would be like, that'd be really powerful, because like right now one of yeah, it would just be it would be a lot, especially since what would happen is like people would just pick whatever the better buffers are and use those. So it's a little bit easier for us to handle balance when the slots have more specificity and in terms of who you can have and not having everybody. But that's not going to say that we won't ever do anything like that, because who knows what the future holds. I mean, we try some stuff out. We experiment from time to time. Yeah. Let's see. What else we got? Justin's coming in the next 10 minutes or so. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, God, no, I'm humming along to the music. I need another drink of water. I mean, it's water, but still. Water that looks super strange due to the greenness of the bottle. It's kind of like fading into the background. Oh, man. RAR 303, any chance of having a 12-slot formation for one of the Year 2 events? It's unlikely, just because, like, you notice that like our event formations tend to be 10 champions, and our campaigns, other than Grand Tour of the Sword Coast, are also 10 champions. So we can, oh, excuse me, balance roughly around like what kind of expected progress people will be able to make and how difficult things will be, based on the number of slots. As soon as we add 11 or 12, it just, yeah, it's another difficult aspect of like, oh, we're going to make this harder on ourselves to balance. And so it's not like we're never going to do that, but it would, yeah, that'd be add a whole nother kind of challenge. Bogard 7 just got into the game alongside Neverwinter. Wanted to thank you guys. Thanks, yeah. And we're glad that you're enjoying Cryptic's game as well. They're good friends of ours. We like them. Do speed potions affect the total number of event tokens that drop during their duration? No, because the event tokens that drop are determined on our end, not yours. So, SketchMonkey007, what you need are one-shot missions that let you mix champions that can't be together so you don't break balance. Like a mission called A Drow, a Tiefling, and a Tabaxi walk into a bar, and then you have Dritz, Makos, and Birdsong all in the same group for a one-shot mission. Write some dialogue for them that's funny. Maybe they hate each other and thus don't normally group together. Could be great. I mean, I don't know if we need that, but, you know, thinking about Wolfgar's event, Bright Swords, which just ended, I guess, 2 events ago now. We had a mission in it where it was Brunner and Wolfgar, and that was it. And like the whole mission was balanced and built around the two of them. We really liked doing stuff like that, and there was the Caddy alone that also did something like that. And so we have plans for more stuff like that. Like we want to do a Companions of the Hall mission, and we would love to do like some Force Grey missions or even some Waffle Crew missions, but kind of have to think about like when we can slot that in, like when is that going to be a fit into what we're doing. And yeah, I can't give any ETAs on anything like that, but like it's on our mind. It's something that Chris has talked about and that we're definitely considering. Jink. When you were moving over the characters with the gamepad UI, I saw something that said percentage. What was that percentage? So in the gamepad UI, if I hold down the left trigger, it says what everybody's damage is and then what percentage of the party DPS that is. As you can tell, Farida is doing the vast majority of the DPS, to the tune of 99% of it. This is actually, this left trigger thing that holds over that pulls that up is something that we want to add something like it to the mouse and keyboard UI, but yeah. So it's just a percentage of the party DPS. PC's Jeff has probably already been said, but how do you get the Brunner new appearance? It has been said, but I don't mind repeating myself. The event variant Pirates Night, which is variant number 3. Sorry, I'm just responding to somebody. Okay, so what was the question that I was reading? Oh, how do you get the Bruner appearance? So, this variant, I'm going to use the mouse over the console gamepad UI, but the Pirate's Knight, where these goblins come from? It's the third variant for Donar's version of Liar's Knight, the Year 2 event. So you just complete this variant. And what it does is it forces you to have Bruner in the formation. Sorry, Deacon fans. And it puts him in a pirate costume, and it adds extra pirates to adventures, and you just have to make progress. And some of the pirates ride cannons, so F them. And yeah, you kind of just deal with that. Rocket Ogre, is there a good rule of thumb for how much favor to keep versus spend? You know, every time I hear the phrase rule of thumb, I think of that argument at the beginning of Boondock Saints. And how unintentionally sexist it is, even though it doesn't feel that way to use it. But I'm not criticizing you, it makes me think of that. Generally, you want to, at least the rule that I use, is to spend up to half of your favor on blessings. Because you want to be able to get to your wall as quickly as you can and efficiently in terms of how much gold you're earning. At the same time, you want to be purchasing blessings at a decent rate to keep building on your progress. So I would never spend more than half of my favor. I don't think it's worth it, because I think it slows down your progress too much to spend more than half of it. And then eventually you will have much more than you need. But yeah, when you're starting out, I would never recommend spending more than half. Axel 11223. In the past events, we had recurring villains. Will the story with them continue? Sorry for my last question. So yes and no. I mean, it really depends. Some of the oh God, I almost got into spoilers. Well done. I'm not going to, but yes, characters will return. Wyverny Win. Will Paulton's event have Chris Perkins as a boss? Well, Chris Perkins is not an NPC in the Forgotten Realms. He merely plays all of them. It's funny. I don't know what I could say about Paulton Seppa's event. There will eventually be one. I don't have an ETA to give you. So yeah, I will probably just leave it at that. We do love Chris Perkins. We would love any excuse to work with him. My vote would be to get him to work with us on a what's his name? A Warrington Munt GIF champion, so that we could have a GIF marching there. But it being Forgotten Realms, we tend to lean more towards the Forgotten Realms than any other campaign setting or thing. So, like, Strix is the only character who's not from the Forgotten Realms, I think, in our game so far. I think everybody else is canonically from it or plays in it, but Strix is from Sigil. So, all right. Eisen, I know I did ask this before, but I had to attend RL and missed your answer. Will there be more free options, codes, gems to gear event champions? Would it be possible with the release of new champions there would be a chance to get all the base white items with the first event mission or one of the variants? That's a good question. I mean, that's a better question for Justin or Chris, because they can speak to what the long-term balancing plan is for all of that stuff, and I can only give a little bit of evidence based on what I know. The other thing about that is that nice Hawker and Co. So the other thing about that is that anything that is directly tied towards the actual monetization aspects of the game is something that we will go over very slowly and carefully, because we do have to keep the game viable as a free-to-play game. So, yeah. Why such a funky formation for Donar? Where in Harvesttide you just flip the Stoking formation? Why is it... Well, this is the Liar's Knight 2 formation, which is an adjusted version of the Liar's Knight 1 formation. I don't have anything else to give you. And on that note, I'm going to introduce my guest, the Justin. The Justin you've heard all these things about, who is here to talk about tanking and healing. And
I am. That's
how we're
true.
changing that. I'm going to adjust this.
I wore my sweater. We'll see.
Yeah, it's warm in here, but not too warm. I don't know.
It's not too bad.
There's some stale water down there if you need a water.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Hey.
Yeah. I'm gonna play this fancy gamepad UI.
Cool.
And,
Look what I've got here. How high def is the stream?
Well, it's 1080, so they can't read that. Because
it's notes.
It's bad 1080. It's Logitech webcam 1080. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got notes about tanking and healing.
Okay.
So how do you want to do this?
I think we have questions already saved up for it, which I don't know. I guess we won't know if any of them are relevant until we get to it. But I guess the big thing is, you have a vision for how the tanking and healing and shielding, I guess by extension, system in the game is going to receive a pretty significant overhaul.
That's true.
Maybe give us your TED Talk about it.
Sure. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. So good to see so many of you out here. Wait, not my literal TED Talk. Got to get Eric in here for that.
Mm-hmm. He did do one of those. It's true.
He did. That's true.
Yeah.
So I've got a sheet of notes here about the tanking and healing update. And what we're actually going to do is after the stream, we're going to post this set of notes so that you guys can talk about it some more. Because one of the things we've found is that if we just kind of tell you guys what's coming with big caveats, sometimes you notice things and think about things that we haven't necessarily thought of yet. So I think it's really nice to bounce stuff off you guys sometimes. So with that in mind, everything that I'm going to talk about today comes with a huge grain of salt in that nothing's final yet. Everything's subject to change. Nothing at all is set in stone when it comes to this update. We're starting to do some significant testing of sort of some of the systems we're putting in place, but we've yet to finalize anything except for Barrowwind nerfs. I guess I'll start out by talking a little bit about the current system and why we want to do something about it. So why the tanking and healing update? So anyone who's really played the game past level 50 or so will notice that at a certain point, your health just doesn't really matter anymore. You either get to a point where your health is so high that you can tank a million monsters and they don't even tickle you, no matter what champion you're using. You can have Celeste up there. You could have whoever our squishiest champion in the world. You can have Delina at the front of your formation, and she'll be like,
I think actually Binwin might be our squishiest.
Even Binwin at the front. That's crazy, Binwin. Okay, Binwin at the front of the formation. Say he's the squishiest. You got 100 goblins on him. He's like, don't worry about it, guys. I got this. So that kind of sucks. It's not really what we wanted tanking and healing to do. The other thing is some tanks are really nothing but a delaying tactic. They don't provide any benefit by tanking. So, for example, Naeli, depending on how many people she is tanking, increases your party's damage. Same with Evelyn. Sorry. Evelyn?
Yeah.
Evelyn. Right. Yes, Evelyn's the evil Evelyn.
Yeah, I know.
Freaking Anna.
Anna's confusing.
Anna. So yeah, some of the tanks like Arcan, Grama, etc. They don't really do much except for just they're supposed to be a meat shield. So we want to make sure that all the tanks in the game provide a better benefit, so that actually having the tank up there lets you push further, which is kind of the purpose of having a healer and a tank at the front of your formation.
That makes sense.
And because of all this, healing and tanking specializations are essentially useless. Like, nobody ever specs for healing on Celeste. Nobody ever specs for shielding on Calliope. Like, that, you'd be kind of silly to do that. And one of the reasons is that those two specs sort of diverge. They go into the healing one, adds a whole bunch of healing, but doesn't really add a bunch of buffing. And the buffing one adds a bunch of Confounder? Oh dear. Confounder. You're so funny.
There was a typo.
Yes, the specializations suck. right now for healing pit folks and tanking folks. So with all that stuff in mind, the things we kind of wanted to change, we want to bring all those numbers into balance. We want to make enemies stacking on the formation actually impactful. You know, if you've got a whole bunch of guys attacking your squishiest member, we want that guy to die. Like we want blood. So we're creating systems to limit the tanking ability of non-tanks. So, you know, if you're not Arcan, you're not Evelyn, you're not Nelly, you're not Grama, etc. You'll probably die when you have a whole bunch of guys on you. We also want to make sure that the tanking and healing specs are more of a choice and more of a viable choice. So at a high level, what that means is actually we're probably going to remove a bunch of the variance between those two specs. So the healing spec is really just they're a little bit better at healing, and the buffing spec is they're a little bit better at buffing. And then you sort of make the choice whether or not you want just a little bit more healing or a little bit more buffing. Mm-hmm. But it's not like you will only heal or only buff kind of thing, which actually makes it sort of counterintuitively a harder choice. Similar to how like recent champions like Deacon, for example, his specs are between Story of Doom hitting everyone or Story of Doom being just a little bit harder or more powerful. And so what that means is like if you can slot him in there, you can use that one. But if you can't, it doesn't hurt too much to have some variety in your formation. So it makes it a more difficult choice. What else do I have here? So we want to make sure that the tanking and healing specs basically help you push a few levels further, if that's the way you want to push further. I'm just reading my own notes here, which I wrote this morning, so I really should know what's in them. Oh yeah, we're also going to use this opportunity to rework several champions. So a good example is Arcan. We've been hyping up that Arcan buff for several weeks now since we did the Krond stuff, and we really want to give Arcan some new life. We want to put him at the front of your formation and make him a must-have, just so that Joe Manganiello will tweet about us. Hi Joe, I know you're watching. I know you're watching, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some. So those are sort of the high level bits and pieces. So I'm just going to go through some more low level stuff, and then we can open it up to questions. Does that sound good?
No, that sounds good.
You're sitting here listening to me talk.
Yeah.
First time you've heard all of this.
It's so one-sided. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna. Yeah.
I just came on here. I'm giving my TED Talk. All right. So here's what we're currently planning. And once again, all of this is subject to change. Nothing's set in stone. Anything could be adjusted. This is just what we're thinking right now. So probably the biggest change that we're going to make is that monster damage is now only going to increase every 50 areas, essentially when the adventure story restarts. So in areas 51, 101, 151, etc. That's the only time that monster damage will increase. Likewise, champion health will no longer increase when you level them up. So, and in fact, for non-tank, non-frontline champions, there will be no upgrades to increase it directly. Tanking champions and select frontline champions will have upgrades that increase their health. So basically what that means is since the monster damage goes up as you repeat the story and your squishy champion health does not go up, as you get further and further in, those squishy champions will squish faster and faster and faster. There will be some things in place to give your squishy champions a little bit more health for AoE encounters like dragons and Acerak.
One of the first questions was about Acerak, but yeah.
Yes. That was the first thing we kind of thought of, was like, okay, if we make squishies really squishy, what's going to happen when a dragon breathes fire on them? They're all going to die.
Uncanny dodge.
That'll suck. So tanking champions will have some new formation abilities that will increase the health of all champions by a percentage of their max health. So what that actually means, it's pretty cool, is if you have multiple tanks, you can stack that effect multiple times, and you can really buff up the rest of your squishies. And in some cases, that might actually be like a good strategic decision before some of those really difficult encounters, like Esser or Rorak. So, of course, because of all this, healing champions will also have all of their numbers completely reconfigured so that the healing numbers make sense. And since everything's a little bit flatter, it'll also be a lot easier for us to deal with in terms of balancing. Because I think the first time you play through like an adventure, like when you start a new event, the tanking and healing is kind of okay. The numbers kind of work out, but as soon as a lot of favor goes in there or gear goes in there, it just throws everything out of whack. So with everything being a bit flatter, it'll be easier for us to work with. So yeah, the idea is that the tanking and healing is more stable. So if you can tank well in area 31, you can also tank well in 41. But if you go to 51, all the monsters are going to get more challenging, and you'll need some upgrades to keep up. It works well with the favor system, so that more favor means you get those upgrades sooner. It means you are able to sort of tank through stuff a lot easier earlier on. Of course, we're going to be going through and tweaking all of our boss monsters to make sure they're more interesting, especially the ones with unique attacks like the aforementioned Demi-Lich dude and dragons and giants that step on things and all that jazz. We're using that opportunity to sort of tweak some of those guys. And then the sort of last thing I'm going to talk about today is, so we're going to be going through all of the tanking and healing champions. So that's Celeste, Naeli, Calliope, Tyrell, Arcan, Gromma, Barrowin, Evelyn, and the newly released Donar, and reworking them to more closely align with the new tanking and healing meta. So some of them are getting small changes. So for example, Evelyn and Donar were actually designed with the tanking and healing changes in mind. So Evelyn scales up really nicely. She's got some unique abilities. We like her. Donar's heal, though the amounts right now are kind of fudged for the purposes of the current meta, he was designed with the new changes in mind as well. And then other champions such as Arcan, Barrowin, Gromma's getting quite a bit, Tyrell as well. They're getting the more major changes. I think Arcan, we're essentially throwing out 99% of his kit and redoing him. But he's going to be really awesome. I'm looking forward to talking more specifically about him in the future, but not right now.
Does he have an undead left hand in the new one?
No, not yet.
Damn.
No, that's going to be something else, I think. But yeah, so we're not ready to talk about specific champion changes right now. Maybe if there's some sort of high-level questions about that, I can answer them, but we're not going to talk about any specific things. Like, I'm not going to talk specifically about how Barrowin's hammers are getting nerfed. But, certainly at a high level, there will be some changes to Barrowin's hammer. I think, actually, the rework of Barrowin that we have is actually going to make her a lot more interesting. In terms of how she's used, but also less of an overpowering nightmare. And then the very last thing I want to say is the target release date.
Oh.
Or rather, the target release year. 2018 is what we're aiming for. It's 2018 now, right?
Yeah.
2018. There we go. Those are my notes. Bring on the questions.
First question, of course, will players who have invested in characters that get drastically changed get a refund of spent items or bonus items or something to compensate for the changes?
Yeah, our hope is not to, we don't want to nerf characters so much or buff characters so much that we completely change the meta. So if you've dumped a bunch of stuff into Barrowin, Barrowin's not going to be useless afterwards. So at this point, we're not planning to do anything in terms of that sort of stuff because we're not planning to nerf anyone to the point that you won't want them anymore. If we did do that, we'd probably think about some sort of compensation, stuff like that. But it's not something that's on our mind right now because we want to really get everyone awesome and not just nerf some guys into nothingness.
Okay. I don't know if... this one isn't directly tanking and healing related.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody wants to know, when designing new characters or rebalancing old ones,
Yeah.
what kind of tools do you use for keeping all the previous characters in mind?
Yeah, we do have some custom tools that we've developed for visualizing, damage ratios and healing ratios and buffing ratios and stuff. And we've got a giant table that it generates that basically has everything. As you spend more gold in them, it goes down, and sort of we make sure that everything kind of lines up. But obviously, it's very difficult to make that account for everything. Like it doesn't account well for the fact that some champions get buffed by certain other champions, and if they're in the same slot, maybe they don't get buffed by that champion. And so there's a lot of there's sort of that high level stuff that we can do, and then there's a lot of intuition and a lot of just manual testing to make sure that everything still lines up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Garwar wants to know why so many champions push monsters off the tanks when tanks need stacks to boost damage.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. That's something we're probably going to, or we are thinking about in the tanking and healing update. There may very well be tanks that are like, "Come here, come at me, brah," and the tanks themselves would sort of pull monsters forward.
Okay.
But with that in mind, I mean it's kind of a a trade-off. That's the word I'm looking for. It's kind of a trade-off. Like there are champions that push monsters back, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not a good thing. And so I think they're situational. Certainly, I think when you've got a boss that you're like, I don't want you to come here and start stacking up boss multipliers on me, then like pushing them back for as long as possible before they get to you can be a good thing. So I think they're situational for sure.
Giant Dwarf wants to know if Celeste will also be getting some kind of gold find.
No plans for that right now.
I can skip the questions that aren't directly related to this right now, just because a lot of them are going to be Chris questions anyways. In the tanking update, will there be perks to make other tanks have traits like Naily that force enemies to focus on them, or... And I mean, you kind of went on that already, but I guess...
Yeah, I mean, all the tanks are going to have, well, with the exception of one of them, are going to have stuff that, when enemies get on them, your formation will do better. We're not actually sure what we're going to do with Taunt specifically. Naily's the only tank that has a Taunt ability that causes monsters to attack her over other people in the front row, or other people in general with ranged monsters. And we're not really sure if we're going to take that out for the tanking and healing or leave it in. It's one of those things that's still up in the air.
Okay. That's related to future design. Let's see. Have you ever considered limiting the range that melee champions can cover to attack a mob, such as only as far as the first familiar slot, to put some emphasis on ranged champions?
Yes, we have actually.
Why didn't we do it? Or is it just unfun?
We just haven't done it yet. Yeah, I wouldn't say we aren't doing it. We just haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Yes.
Justin, are you the one who is responsible for me mispronouncing Farida half the time now?
You mean Faraday?
Please don't make me worse at pronouncing Evelyn now too.
Evelyn. No, actually, we have a running joke in the office. Whenever we do a new champion, at our daily stand-ups, we try and, or I try to. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just me screwing everyone, but I try and mispronounce the champion's name as much as possible to try and get Dylan to mispronounce it on stream. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I'm really happy with Donaire, the latest champion we added to the game. And obviously, Evelyn and Faraday were great additions as well.
But Evelyn is actually a different character. Whereas Aaron Evans was like, it's Farida like fajita.
Faraday, like Faraday cage.
Yeah. So what do the health changes mean for bosses that hit other targets in the front line?
It means that those will be unique, interesting encounters. Where we account for that somewhat via the new formation abilities that allow tanks to share some of their health with the back lines, but in general, like if you run into a bunch of those, you might have to think about it. Maybe a 2-tank formation would be good in that situation, so that everyone else can get twice as much. You might have to think about your healing for that second line if you need to adjust things around for that. And if you've got enough damage to just burst through it before it even gets to you, then that's also an option. So basically, we're just opening up different avenues for dealing with those kinds of monsters by making there be more things you have to think about.
Okay, let's see. That question was already answered by another answer.
Mm-hmm.
That one was also addressed.
That's right. I'm answering questions before they're even asked.
Well, people, like, some of them were, stored up before you started talking. So, so how will this change randomized damage elements? Like, will non-tanks just be bowled over? Because I don't know, all the damage just happens to land in just the right spot and kill somebody.
Yeah, that's something where the tank's formation ability that shares their health will be helpful, as well as healers that function in different ways. So, for example, Dragonborn Paladin, named after a folded over pizza that was recently added.
God, I forget that name.
That certainly his heal will be very helpful for more random damage. So I think there's different champions will be better in different situations, which is, what we were kind of going for.
That does kind of answer Hawker and Coast's question that they just typed in. Like, are the tanks going to be remodeled to agree that we can pick them based on niche uses rather than competing with each other? So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think our goal is for every tank to sort of function a little bit differently. And you can, there'll be some where maybe you build your formation around it, similar to sort of Krond. There'll be some where it's just like, this is a good general purpose tank, like Naeli is always going to be intended as a good general purpose tank because you unlock her very early on and she's available to everyone. Mm-hmm. And then, Evelyn is very much about sort of how monsters attack her, and like she's more useful if she's getting a bunch of guys on her and less useful if she's not really getting attacked.
On that note, how come her compel duel doesn't taunt?
It just done. Maybe it will. If we put taunt back into the game or if we keep taunt in the game rather than the tanking and healing update, it could very well be an ability that she picks up.
Okay, let's see. Beelzebub, are older characters going to be rebalanced when their events come around? That is the plan.
Yes. Hopefully. I mean, you mentioned earlier, like, Gromma's kind of a weird case, because Gromma's in the next event, Feast of the Moon,
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of questionable where the tanking and healing update will land around there, so we're not sure. She might get her update then. She might wait a week or two to get her update. It's hard to tell at this point where that's all going to land.
Okay. What does this mean for Arcane's self-healing? Or is that even going to stick around?
I don't have my notes with me on Arcane. I think Arcane's self-heal is going the way of the dodo, which for you kids born after 1990 was a bird that went extinct in the early 1900s.
So what does this mean about the health potions?
Health potions, yes. Health potions will be coming back. That is the current plan. Obviously, grain of salt, subject to change, etc. But they will be coming back, and I don't think we're actually going to even make any changes to them. So I think aside from increasing the durations to match all the other ones, which I think we did already anyway. So yes, they will be coming back. You can get your plus 900% health from the huge ones and be able to last a lot longer.
And they'll all stack?
They will all stack, yeah, as far as I know.
You could health it up.
Get your health on.
Isn't Diath a frontline squishy champion? How will he be dealt with? It's probably a really good question just for rogues in general.
No, I mean, it's a good question. I don't think Diath needs to be on the front line because he just buffs people behind him, right? So he can be, like in your current formation, he can be one back as long as your DPS line is sort of your third column.
Yeah. No, so, I put Dorth right behind Evelyn.
Yeah, the sort of the non-tanking frontline ones, I think, are more like Barrowan is a good example of a non-tank frontline. Her heal is same column, so she's sort of designed, if you're going to use her as a healer, to be in the front row with your tanks. So she's going to get some abilities that keep her health at a level where she can survive a few hits.
She is wearing a lot of armor.
Yeah, and like I could potentially see doing that with Donar. I haven't quite gotten to him yet in my past, but yeah, I mean anyone who's wearing one of the other things we're doing since we're reconfiguring everyone's health is we're changing all the base health values. So we're actually using a kind of, well, almost an in-game formula for that. So things that affect a champion's base health will actually be their, whoa, holy crap.
Boom.
Will be their constitution score, so their con score, the type of armor they're wearing. If you're wearing plate, you'll get more health. If you're wearing cloth or leather, you'll get less. And then their role. So if they're tank or if they're front line, they'll get a health boost as well. So sort of your tankier champions will start out with a bit more health, which means they'll be relevant for a little bit longer before they start to go pop whenever somebody looks at them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the squishier ones, anyone wearing cloth and stuff, will start out with a very low amount of health, and probably by level, like 150, 200, they will not do well when enemies look at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like actual parties.
Right?
And let's see. How is this going to affect how far players are able to progress in the game? Like equal progression, lower, higher?
We're aiming for equal progression. We just want to make it more of a choice of how you get there. So if you go all out DPS, maybe you'll be able to get there. If you go all out tanking and healing, maybe you'll be able to get there. But ideally, you're able to get there sort of no matter which one you choose. And the choice becomes sort of personal preference based on the heroes you're running. And if there's any sort of specific encounters you need to get through, they'll be very helpful on that account. Oh, it doesn't show the thing. Oh, no, it is there.
Which thing?
I was just looking at the distraction. The right trigger in B there was blanked out by the night filter, it looks like.
Yeah, it's
Bug.
darkened because of the background.
Bug.
So what does this mean for over-leveling?
So over-leveling is not going to be a thing come this patch. I mean, it works now as a way to get through, but ideally we're going to get rid of that. And once you get to the point where your tanks can't handle the pain, you have to find another way to push through there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about like gold drop rates?
We're not planning to change the gold drop rates. They should stay the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're not staying the same all the time with this update. You're doing the offline thing too.
Yes, I mean we are doing the offline gold fix with this, as well as I think we're doing a soft cap increase as well. I think that's what Chris is.
Is that lined up for the same time?
Yeah.
Cool. So will this stop champions from upgrading past their cap at this point? Like they'll just hit the cap and then that's it?
Yeah, I mean we certainly could do that. There will be pretty much no purpose in leveling them up past the cap, since nothing will. I mean their damage will still increase slightly, so you probably won't stop them. Yeah.
Okay.
Just their health won't increase anymore.
So does this mean that you're expecting more tanking to happen in general, like slowing down the game?
I think near and at your wall, in places where you were just like, theoretically right now, say you're in an area where like you're not really killing the monsters very fast. Maybe you kill a monster every like 5 or 10 seconds,
yeah,
and a whole bunch of them stack up on your front line, and you've got like 50 stacked up when you finally kill your 25th monster to move on.
Yeah.
In that case, in the new update, you would get knocked back unless you had like a tank and a healer up there, keeping you safe. So, it's really in terms of affecting sort of how you lay out your formation. It's really just sort of once you're near your wall where this starts to matter, and in more challenging sort of boss fights like SRAC.
A Serac?
If you say so.
What does this mean for like low health characters during adventures that have environmental damage, like falling rocks and stuff?
I think most of the falling or the environmental damage stuff is based on percentages, so it should still be all right. I don't think it'll really change anything in most of those cases. There's some cases where the environmental damage is based on monster damage, and we'll have to look at those sort of on a case-by-case basis. We'll be doing quite a bit of testing on this, and we will be pulling or going through a lot of adventures and making sure that everything's playing nice.
Okay.
We'll probably miss stuff. I mean, let's be realistic. We will probably miss a couple. And so
there's only so much testing the half dozen or so
Yes.
people doing this can do versus the 14,000 players who are active or something like that. So
Exactly. So I mean, we'll do as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, we're gonna get this out when we get it out, and there'll be stuff that's broken if there's stuff that's broken. But hopefully that'll all be data stuff that we can just quickly fix before anyone even notices it.
Okay. Somebody wants to know, does it go against the Codename Entertainment or Idle Champions terms or regulations to ask if people like barbecue and what their favorite kind is and what they like best in putting on it? What barbecue sauce do you two like?
Yes, that is actually against our terms. I think if you look at section 23, subsection B, note Q, yes. So Erica, please ban TCR electronics. Thank you.
Seriously though,
Do you like barbecue? I like barbecue.
barbecue's amazing.
Yeah, no, I barbecue all summer.
Yeah.
And then I put it away in the winter because it's cold outside.
See, barbecue in the winter is almost the best part, but
But it's cold outside.
yeah. So it depends on whether or not you have your barbecue like on a patio or like on a deck that you just kind of like step out to and like flip stuff and then step back into your house.
Yeah, I have that.
Which
except
I don't
it's
have.
covered in snow.
Yeah. It's covered in. It's not snowing here.
Okay, it got covered in snow one day last year.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. So let's see. This is a good question. I'm a free-to-play player who has every champion but Azaka, and currently wall at about 200. Where will these changes put me if I want to try and get Azaka ASAP?
And as I said before, I'm hoping that these changes won't change your wall too much. The Azaka sort of wall is something that we're going to be thinking about in this. If you're only getting to 200, I think Azaka you need 300.
You need 300 with 9 slots.
Yeah, so that's going to be pretty challenging, I think, for you even after the changes. Just keep on farming that favor. Events are a great way to get more favor. If your favor gains from normal free play runs are down to like 5 or 6% or 10 or 20% with potions, then use those events to double your favor or to get like 80% more favor. And it's really just a question of pushing up that favor. Getting up to getting more favor gives you more upgrades faster, which gets you to a higher level faster.
Okay. Kawani wants to know if the tanking and healing patch over the Christmas break will result in servers being on fire when we get back.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going out December 24th at 11:59 p.m. That's when we're doing it. Spoilers.
So these two are both kind of the similar question. One of them is asking about whether or not Strix will still be the meta, and the other one wants to know if the nerf to Barrowan means that those who use Barrowan are going to see a significant drop in their progress, or are the tanking changes going to balance that out?
Yeah, so there's a couple other parts to this update that we're doing that we haven't talked about yet that I think will offset some of the Barrowan nerf. We're hoping to keep your progression up around the same level, unless you were 4-stacking your Barrowan to push forward. If you're just using Barrowan and just like regular 2 or 3 stacks on Strix and just pushing forward that way, then we're hoping you won't see too much of a change. If you were 4-stacking, manually dragging in and out to manually stack and using that to progress, yeah, that's not gonna be a possibility anymore. But yeah.
This player wants to know what this means for champions that are not being used right now. Like a Barrowan nerf still won't make Delana DPS formations.
Yeah, and that's something we're gonna sort of review as we go through the year 2 events. We'll start to look at the year 1 champions and make changes to them as necessary. And then sometime in 2019, hopefully early in 2019, depending on how busy we get with other things. We'll do the big balance patch, which will be a big pass through all of the evergreen champions as well as any year 1 champions we haven't looked at yet, as well as we're gonna be doing everyone at that point. Even some of the guys who are affected by the tanking and healing update, they'll probably get some tweaks as well in that big patch. So we're going to be looking at everyone down the road. I would love it if at some point someone could build like a Delina formation that pushed further than anyone else. That's like personal life goals, but we'll see. I mean, we're going to try and make everyone viable at some point.
I think step one with Delina would be to delete Hitch and then move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of nerfs Hitch quite a bit to delete him entirely. But, we'll
Think
see.
of how many more people would be viable. All right, so reading Donara's description, I was expecting to find his heal did a percentage of champion health. Is that a direction you're considering for healers in the new model?
It is not. And the reason we're not doing percent of health is because it kind of nullifies the need for upgrades and really makes upgrades not useful. So for example, if someone heals, say, 10% of someone's health per second, and then that person gets a health boost, you don't need to give them a healing boost in order to keep up. And so it just makes it so there's less variety in the upgrades and less even reason to upgrade. You could have a level 1 healer who heals 10% of the health per second, and that level 1 healer will be just as effective at healing someone with 1,000 health versus 1,000,000 health.
Yeah.
So we want there to be that sort of step up as you go, right? So that your tank gets more health, and the healers need to heal harder to keep up with that.
Heal harder.
Heal harder. So that's what I always yell at my clerics in D&D games.
This is a very good question from Nomanity4. This may be too subjective to answer in a meaningful way, but how will the tanking and healing changes affect the feel of the way we play the game currently? For example, I currently spend a few levels setting up my formation and buying all available upgrades, and then ignoring it for a while, buying more upgrades, rinse and repeat to my wall, where I'll use some alts and maybe tweak the formation before resetting.
Yeah.
How will the tanking and healing update affect that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in the sort of early game, when you're just setting up like the first 75% of that, I don't think will change all that much, because once you get enough favor, you're just grinding through enemies until you get closer to your wall, right? Like, they're not getting to your formation to need a tank to tank them, with the exception of maybe some ranged guys or certain bosses, as we've talked about. So it shouldn't affect the early game too much. It's really just once you get closer to your wall, maybe you'll have a progression. Like a lot of people have a sort of progression formation, maybe like a gold find formation, and then like a near your wall formation, a grinding formation. So I think we'll still sort of have that. It might just sort of change how those end game formations look a bit.
Okay. How is this going to affect Calliope's shielding achievement?
Good question. A lot of the achievements for these champions will actually be getting redone. And what we're going to do with those is we're going to take the current achievements and move them into a category called Legacy Achievements. Oh, I got to get up here on stream. Legacy Achievements. And they won't be attainable anymore, but if you've already attained them, you'll have them there as a kind of badge of honor for having done it under the old system.
Will legacy achievements give you +% damage increases?
Probably not.
Okay.
And then there'll be new achievements in there that are balanced to the new heal, tanking, shielding, health, etc. levels.
Okay. This player wants to know if certain maps will be changed following this update. Like, will more maps be added where tanking and healing are needed? I think they're talking just about adventures in general. And they're wondering if the goal is to make tanking and healing as good as a pure DPS build. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think we're going to change any adventures aside from just making sure that they're not incredibly broken if you don't have tanks or healers. But the goal is to kind of make it so a pure DPS spec can get you to a certain level, and tanking and healing gets you, at least that far. Maybe a little bit further. Maybe sometimes DPS gets you further, sort of depending on the monsters and where you're getting walled.
Yeah.
But we want them to be sort of comparable. Whereas compared to right now, where pure DPS sort of gets you this far, and tanking and healing gets you this far.
Okay.
Not even on screen.
Will tanks also pull ranged attackers?
Range
into melee range.
Into melee range. I mean, maybe there'll be a tank that does that. I know that's something a lot of people have been asking about vis-a-vis Strix's stinkiness, and making sure that debuff hits them. So I think that's something we could add over time, not necessarily even just in the tanking and healing update, but there could be other champions down the road that do that.
Okay. Larager, maybe have bosses drop damage stacks when they are not in range.
Yeah, it's something we're considering is sort of how boss damage stacks up, as well as enemy damage as well. Like many players may know that when you get up to 100 enemies on the screen, the enemies start to increase their damage. Because that's one of the things that I didn't really mention in the what we think is wrong with the current system is one of the things that can happen in the game right now is you sort of get to your wall and then you don't have enough damage to kill the enemies don't have enough damage to kill you, and you just kind of sit there butting against each other for hours, and you lose out on a lot of gold if you're not paying attention, and you lose out on favor and time, and it's just a waste of everyone's time. So ideally in that situation, after the tanking and healing update, if you can't kill the enemies, they will more quickly overpower your formation and punch you back to a level where you are able to, at least manage the horde. We don't want you to be able to get up to 100 enemies and keep tanking 100 enemies for, indefinitely. Mm-hmm. We want that 100 enemy horde to sort of crush through you and get you back to a place where you're tanking, more in the range of 20 to 50 enemies.
Yeah, I mean, if you had 100 hobgoblins attacking you, it doesn't matter if you're a level 20 paladin in
you would
D&D, you will eventually die.
Yeah.
Unless you can nuke them all at once. So this is an interesting question. It's like, what about, can we get a formation with more slots but restricted to only using 10 champions? Because right now you're talking about choices between using multiple tanks, and in all of the formations you don't have a choice. You have to use what the formation gives you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it's possible. I think that'd be a really interesting variant to try in an event. Chris, if you're listening, there you go. There's an idea for next event you're planning.
Tyrell bear form? ?
Yeah, Tyrell bear form's going to be changed a little bit. Tyrell's going to get some cool things that no other tanks are getting with regards to some mitigation systems we haven't really talked about yet, and won't be on this stream at least. But yeah, Tyrell's getting some cool changes. His Shielding Bite ultimate is getting some cool changes to hopefully make it actually really kind of cool.
Sweet, so yeah. I forgot that he had that because I haven't used Bear Tyrell in a long time.
and it's super useless. So yeah.
Okay. Will solo variants consider this change to add a health multiplier to the champion?
Yeah, solo variants are one of the things we'll have to consider when it comes to this stuff, for sure.
That's just nonsense.
That sounds like a great Chris question.
Yeah, there are some questions that I'm skipping over, not because we don't want to answer them, because we're totally comfortable answering any question, but we're trying to keep this as on topic as possible, and some of these are just better questions for Chris. So if you don't hear your question answered, sorry. But Chris will answer it. In the meantime, #blame Chris.
To be fair, we are on question 50 of I don't even know how many there are.
Yeah.
Thousands.
No, this is your question 50. I already did pages of questions.
Yes.
Will the back catalog of Golden Epics be released around this update?
No plans for that around this update, but we've always got that in mind. We really want to put those in the store at some point in some way.
Okay. What about click damage? Will this update affect it at all?
No plans for click damage in this update, though that is something we have to address at some point.
This one's from CNE Chris. It's like, do you think fans will ever forgive Chris for saying that the next Evergreen champion will come out before the end of the year in a previous Q&A, and then he pushed her out into Q1 2019 due to the team's workload? #blame Chris.
Yeah, blame Chris. We actually made that a core value last week. Blame Chris.
It's true. We do our Monday meetings tied to core values in terms of what you've accomplished and giving positive shout outs to people. And almost everybody tied blame Chris into their into their core value thing. Yeah.
That's also partially my fault. I kind of pushed that champion out of Q4 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we don't generally give specific dates for things, or is because everything, stuff can change, and even the tanking and healing, I've said 2018, that could change. Can't guarantee anything in this business.
It's true. I mean, you might get 90% done, but not be able to figure something out.
Yeah, or I mean, the entire team could be sick for the next week because
Don't say that now.
Redemption 2 is coming out.
That's not funny. Oh, Red Dead, because I forgot how it was coming out.
I'm gonna be sick tomorrow. Are you gonna be sick tomorrow?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna play it right now. But I am gonna use some of my Codename Entertainment video game allowance. But
Oh yeah.
yeah. But you know, if I did get it, I'm sure my wife would play it. Although she was really mad at me for not getting a Switch.
Really?
Yeah, she's like, I've been expecting a Switch with Mario Kart to show up since you said that you were going to get that. You didn't do it. I was like, oh shit.
That is what that bonus is for.
Yeah, pretty much.
Apparently.
We really should have just. That could be the Codename Christmas present to everybody, is people who don't have Switches can get. No. All right. If more champions with affiliations are added to the game, can we expect to see affiliations-focused events or campaigns, like a Waffle Crew event, Force Grey event, Companions of the Hall? It could be a great way for players to test out champions before purchasing them or getting them from time gates.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see some adventures, some variants, etc., made specifically for those groups. That'd be really cool.
All right, so Ark and Sunseeker. Ark and Sunseeker is one of our regulars. I've noticed that with only the store offer time gates and in part blacksmith contracts, we can only upgrade core/evergreen champions reliably. Any words being exchanged that would make upgrading event champions slightly easier?
Not really sure that we've got anything coming up really soon on that stuff. Certainly with time gates, and when you open a time gate, the champion's chest, or the champion you choose, their chests appear in the store for, I think, a week after that. So there is options there if you want to spend money. If you don't want to spend money, obviously it becomes a lot more challenging. And there is I think some wiggle room there for us to add some additional options to gear them up. But we don't have anything coming up really soon on that.
So, Dr. Awkward. So, people who are behind in terms of favor and are already struggling to get to the level cap, do we get something out of this update? It feels like a nerf somehow, like we'll never be able to make it to area 300.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's level cap is, or everyone's like wall is different, right? Like, just because you can't get to the level cap doesn't mean that you don't have a wall where you sort of stop progressing. And if this tanking and healing update helps you push through that wall and maybe go like an extra 10 or 15 areas, that'll give you a bunch more favor. That'll get you a little bit further next time, and that'll get that ball rolling, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this is a game about you gain your favor, and you use that favor to push further, and then you gain favor, and you use that favor to push further. And so this update will hopefully help you push further. If some tanking and healing will help you push further.
Aclea abides. Doesn't this mean that favor becomes useless once you have all the blessings and reach your level cap quickly? Actually, I mean, we do add more blessings.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we're always going to be adding more blessings. We're always going to be adding more adventures. We're always going to be adding more upgrades over time. So, I mean, I think that's similar to saying like there's no point in doing Tomb of Annihilation after you have a Zaka. Well, I mean, we're always going to be adding. We're not always going to be adding. We're probably going to be adding adventures to Tomb of Annihilation for quite a while. Certainly, the level 300 won't be the highest level you ever have to get to in Tomb of Annihilation. So I think it's always worth it to grind up a little bit more favor ahead of time.
Okay. Somebody wants to know if there will be new equipment slots that give us the option to boost our hit points with a steady but slow type of progression.
No plans for that right now, no.
Can you share how big of a jump the soft cap increase might be?
Yeah, I did it the other day. What was it? It was, right now we're at like E42, and I think it's up to E49 or something like that. Don't hold me to that, though. But generally, we try and do them in about 50 area increments. So if your sort of soft cap with all the upgrades now is like 300, then like 350 is kind of what we aim for. But it varies just depending on like your gear and other stuff like that. So that's what we aim for. We usually try and make each upgrade have at least one or two upgrades in it that buff the whole party, and then a bunch of damage, so you can push further.
Okay, so this is a good question. So a big reason for farming favor is for over-leveling. Will there still be a strong enough incentive to farm favor once you've purchased all blessings and can hit your level cap easily?
Yeah, I mean, overleveling is one of those things that's gonna go by the wayside for the most part. I think we can, if it becomes an issue, we can certainly look at ways to address that. I think there's a fair number of ways we can address that other games have done that we can borrow. So yeah, I mean, if that becomes an issue, we'll definitely look at ways to address it.
Okay. This player is probably echoing sentiments that a lot of players are feeling. But basically, it feels right now that Azaka is behind a kind of artificial wall because of the lack of upgrades to boost damage and buffs above E42. Right now, the people that got her did it by severely overleveling and combining champion powers that are probably getting nerfed. Will we see the artificial wall removed, like upgrades for higher levels, so that Azaka could be reached with enough favor?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I mean, we're always going to be adding more upgrades, as I was saying, and as well, I think you'll see that some of the abilities in the tanking and healing update will be like general nerfs, like Barrowin will get her hammers nerfed, but I think you'll see some other champions will be buffed. I think, for example, Gromma will get some nice buffs to her kit to make her a more viable member of her
buffs.
formation.
Oh, that'll make Really Cool happy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of champions that'll be getting some sort of minor and major buffs, and then especially when we do the larger balance update, there'll be a lot of champions that'll see their upgrades boosted, especially ones later on in the seat order.
Okay. PCS Jeff wants to know if the daily deals in the shop work on a rotation system that make every Epic item slot available for purchase, or if it's only for a limited number of slots.
So the daily deals in the shop, I think every day it just randomly orders all of the champions and then offers you the first one in that list that you have. So, I mean, random chance is random, but over a large enough period, everything would be offered. It doesn't cycle through, or like guarantee that the same one will be 2 days in a row or anything like that. But it's completely random, essentially.
I think part of what they're getting to is they're wondering if what shows up as a possible golden epic is limited to, say, the one that you get for your event item purchase, or if the weekend promo golden epics will show up that way.
Right. Yeah, the ones that are linked to the champions are just the ones from their events. Right now, there's no way to get those the golden epics from the weekends yet. Someday.
Okay. More formation saves?
Yeah. Someone had a cool suggestion in the Discord today about having a fourth save slot that every time you reset is basically just saved your last reset. So you can quickly get back to whatever formation you last reset to. So I think that would be pretty cool. I'm not really sure where we'd put that on the UI or anything, but that'd be pretty cool.
Well, there's no formation save part for this.
Yes, in the gamepad UI there is no formation slot stuff. I think that's
not yet. I
think that is being added potentially as we speak. I know that's on the list. Actually, there's a updated version of this UI that we haven't released yet that I was looking at.
Oh, okay.
It's looking really cool. Looking very slick, almost as if we got some art time on it.
Let's see. Would it not be better to change the requirements on character achievements and leave them achieved/unachieved as they currently stand? Seeing achievements that I cannot complete will be frustrating.
So in the legacy achievement section, we're actually not going to show you any of them that you haven't been completed. So
okay. So it's like the feats of strength in World of Warcraft.
Essentially, yeah. Okay. So like Calliope's achievement will just go away for everyone except for people who have cheated it.
Okay. I've always wondered if Birdsong's ult overbuff is a glitch or if it was intended.
I am not sure what that's referring to. Do you have any insight on that?
No, I don't.
Ult overbuff.
People still use Birdsong? No.
I use Birdsong.
Birdsong's really good.
Birdsong for life.
I use Faraday, Farida Fajita instead. On that note, Silisa wants to know if Farida's ult numbers are accurate now.
I'm not sure. I haven't actually had a chance to look at that yet. I know there was some question about whether that was like her whole ult damage or if it was divided by like 15 for each tick or whatever. I haven't gotten a chance to ask Mark about that yet.
Yeah. And okay, so we have time for one more. And so let's see. Somebody asked whether or not we'll have the ability to replay event variants for gems, or maybe requiring higher levels, etc. Like replaying variants
or any variants. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is something we want to do. That's there's going to be the plan right now is for there to be another system in place after the big balance patch that will be related to replaying variants. So it's down the road. Not sure exactly when that will come out, but we do have plans for that, and it'll be really, really frickin' cool. I guarantee it.
Okay. So on that note, we're towards the end of the show, so
Great.
That's what we have time for. I'm going to read out my outro, but while I do that, I'm going to show you a piece of fan art that I got in the Discord that is the cutest thing ever. This was a Drunken Yinzers was the username. Their son made this.
Not their drunken son.
Not their drunken son.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's just this really cute bit of fan art that's of all the familiars. So that is our show today for Thursday, October 25th, 2018. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate that you join us every week. This show would not be possible without the work of quite a few people behind the scenes. First and foremost, there's Erica Kramer, the Codename Entertainment Community Manager, who co-produces this live stream along with me. She manages the chat giveaways and stuff. Alongside Obo Crazy, Lauren, who does the D&D channel moderation. On the digital side, we also have Greg, Bart, Lynn, Pelham, and Satine, who coordinate with us on all things Dungeons & Dragons. And last but not least, my guest, Justin, who took the time off from building the future of the game to talk to us about it. Mm-hmm. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Waffle Talk is coming up next.
Okay.
Trapped in the Birdcage is not airing this week because Holly, and I assume a number of her show mates, other people participating on that show are all at TwitchCon. But Critical Role is coming on tonight at 7, and I think Laura Bailey is the DM tonight for some kind of one-shot, so that should be really fun. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and thanks for watching.
Bye.